You watch 100 Mile Drive, and today I have 2023 BMW 430i Convertible that has a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine turbo with 255 horsepower. And the biggest question I want to answer today is this new generation 4 Series a better car to buy than the previous generation with the hard top? That's the car released before. And most importantly, how does this new 4 Series feel to drive compared to the old one? All coming in this video. And if you watch 100 Mile Drive for the first time, well, this is the channel where I do dynamic drive reviews, where I say before you buy a car, sign that contract, make sure to rent the car, find it from places like Turo, and drive it for at least 50 to 100 miles on city streets, highway, and canyon roads to be able to answer the biggest question I'm answering on this channel: how does it feel to drive? And now let's get into this video. By the way, I just finished recording my intro and the key is inside and the car just locked itself. I wonder how that happened. So luckily the top is open, so I'm gonna try to now hijack the car. Oh, the alarm might go off. Yep. So I don't know what kind of feature is that, but I just got the key and somehow it locked itself with the key inside. Well, that's weird. All right, and now let's quickly touch base on the exterior of this car. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this front grille, to be honest with you, unless it's an M4, which looks much more aggressive, and it's in those exotic colors like a green, yellow, or blue. That's where I think it looks the best. Now, we got some new wheels, and interesting thing that in this 4 Series, we have a 225 40R19 front and rear, and these are run flat tires. I'll tell you how they feel to drive. Actually, I'm quite impressed, I'll be honest with you, and I'll share more while driving this car. Now, the rear looks kind of nice. This is the area where I do like the redesign of the new 4 Series. Now, one thing I do not like, of course, is the trunk area. There's no more that button that the old one had where you could lift the whole system up, load your luggage, and then bring it down. Well, this is a soft top versus the hard top, and obviously the system is different. The only thing now, while this looks like it's a less expensive construction to make for them, the car itself is not cheaper than the old one, by no means. Well, with current inflation, anyway, you're not going to expect that. So let's hop in on the inside, then talk about the interior. All right, and also quick door sound check. And what I like about convertibles is this wide freaking door, so easy to get in and get out, even though it's a lower car, but it's very easy to get in and get out. And it's a quite heavy door, and I like the sound of it. So the door sound check, pass. All right, and now hopping on the inside, I do like this little thing here that hands you the the seat belt. That's pretty cool, wasn't there before. Now overall, I can say, I mean, this is not too much different, the 2023 model, than the previous generation. It was never like super exciting interior, but it is like what it is. Like, that's how the BMW is supposed to look like. Now, I do not like that they're switching to this long screen for the 2024 model. I think this is more driver focused with the new screen. Yes, it's going to be a bigger screen, but it all looks like a Hyundai, Kia, BMW. Now, all going to be the same basically with that new setup. So, want to quickly address the quality of the interior. That's what I usually like to do, and it's pretty good, except this piece moves a little bit, but I think it'll be fine. Well, this car only has 3,000 miles. It's still fairly new. The materials are not super high quality like in 8 Series, but they're not bad. Let me tell you that they're not bad. Everything is nicely molded, and it should stand the time. I mean, we spent in our car almost 40,000 miles, and nothing was creaking in that interior of the previous car that we had. Now, upgrade I can see as far as the standard equipment is the seats. These seats feel much nicer. These are, whatever, that fake leather seats. The car that we had, there were firmer seats, and there was a lot of fading of the fake leather on the edges, especially where you use your jeans, right? You sit and you move a lot, so there was a lot of fading of that leather. This feels much nicer, and overall seats are nicer, so I kind of like that. All right, now let's go ahead and drive it. And first, I'm gonna drive BMW 430i Convertible in the city. I'm gonna put it in sport mode so we can have a feel of acceleration. All right, let's try it. Let's go. Right off the bat, it's pretty fast actually. So you know, of course it will feel faster. But I already spent a day with the car, and this is exactly what I say. You got to spend with the car at least 50 to 100 miles in order to actually be able to feel how it drives. That's exactly what we are doing. All right, so we're coming to the stop, so we're gonna try another acceleration and then immediately talk about brakes. All right, here are the brakes. Good stopping power overall. All right, flooring, let's go. The car, okay. So here's what I would like to say. This car has a claimed 5.9 seconds acceleration, 0 to 60 time, versus the previous gen 6 seconds. This model feels actually a little quicker. It feels somewhere like 5.6, 5.7 seconds. It does feel a little quicker than the previous gen, and quite honestly, for most folks, this is gonna be more than enough. I don't think you need the 440i unless you're like a real enthusiast. This 4-cylinder is very punchy, it's very responsive. In this standard setup, I don't have an M Sport suspension, so when I change these modes, it only throttles transmission. It makes it more responsive and obviously adds a little bit, you know, more mature sound. A little bit of handling here. So overall acceleration is good. Brakes feel pretty strong for the standard brakes. I mean, I never complain about BMW brakes. They can only sometimes make a bigger difference on the, you know, more aggressive driving like canyon roads. But otherwise, these brakes pretty good. All right, one more acceleration here. Yeah, this car is more than adequate. All right, I'm gonna throw it in comfort mode, and the next thing we want to talk about the steering in this car. And the steering in the BMW 3 and 4 series is more direct than, let's say, my X3, you know, even X3 M40i. It's more direct, it's more tossable, and in comfort and eco-pro modes, it loosens up a little bit. It becomes, you know, even more sensitive, I would say. Very easy to cruise around, maneuver around, you know, make all kinds of turns. This car is very responsive. And suspension, the next thing I want to talk about suspension, actually quite a bit. Despite this car being on run flat tires, the tires that I kind of hate, to be honest with you, the suspension is tuned in this car in such a way where it's tuned more on the comfort side. I will not call it soft, mushy. I mean, BMW doesn't make mushy cars. But I will not call it soft, rather I'll call it comfortable. Not firm, but comfortable. And I love it in this convertible setup because I want to enjoy the nature. I want to enjoy, you know, opening this roof, cruise around, you know, and it's very pleasant to drive the car that way. The suspension is like buttery smooth. That's what I'm trying to say. I do feel there's a more road noise from the run flat tires. Also, when we hit certain imperfections on the road, and I'm gonna drive it on the beat up road right now, there is a little harsher contact to the road, but it's not as translated much to the driver and to the suspension as it is in like an M Sport car. Like an M Sport car with run flat tire, I say it's a disaster, and it's a disaster in my X3 M40i. And I haven't driven their, you know, 340i or 440i with the ramp. I mean, didn't drive those cars at all, and I can only assume that those cars would be a disaster on the run flats. In the standard suspension, it's comfortable. It's more than enough, and I don't think you need to swap out tires for the regular ones. So overall, very pleasant car to drive. So let me go ahead and drive it on the beat up road, and we'll talk about its, you know, more about the suspension. And now driving on my favorite beat up road, Tampa Avenue. So the cool thing about this car with the standard suspension is that even though it has a run flat tires, but it has a nice gliding effect of the suspension over these bumps. I'm hitting them. My voice may not be clear right now. Hitting a lot of these imperfections, potholes, you name it. Minor potholes, nothing big. job in dampening. It's really softening things very well. Very well. So I can imagine if this car was on the regular tires, it would do even a better job taking care of these imperfections on the road. So this car in this setup, like I said, it's like a buttery smooth. That's how the suspension feels in this car, despite, you know, harder rubber, despite this is being like a sport, you know, convertible sport version of the car. I'm pretty impressed with the suspension setup. And now I'm trying to drive, you know, around my local neighborhoods just to see what is it like to live with this car. Already spent pretty much a day with it, and I'm quite impressed. It's very easy to drive it. The suspension is comfortable. Steering is quite direct and very pleasant to drive. So anyone, for ladies, you know, for guys, basically if you like that comfortable light steering, just, you know, in the comfort mode or Eco Pro mode, it's very comfortable, but at the same time very responsive. And by the way, you can adjust the feedback of the steering as well in this car. Like, you can get more feedback even though it's electromechanical steering. So overall, driving this car in the local neighborhoods is very easy. The steering acceleration is pretty instantaneous for what it is. It handles very nicely. Good brakes, overall very good brakes. This car inspires confidence. That's the reason why people buy BMWs, because they inspire confident driving, easy driving. You gotta love this car. I mean, you gotta love BMWs. And now I started liking the standard versions more than the M versions, even though I want B58 legendary engine in this standard setup, not an M Sport setup, because I want to keep this comfortable suspension. Sometimes this adaptive M suspension is just a bit too harsh for what I, you know, would feel. Of course, unless I'm going for like an 8 series, and that's where they did a better job in damping that car. So overall, very easy to live with this car. So now let me go ahead and drive it on the highway. All right, and now we're merging the highway. So I'm still in the comfort mode. All right, let's go. Yeah, this car has absolutely enough power to climb pretty much, you know, any on-ramp very easily. There's a little bit of traffic here, but hopefully it'll start moving. And then let's just get into faster lanes. So the first thing I want to talk about in this car is the sound insulation. And since it's a convertible, obviously the sound insulation is not going to be as great as in the regular car. How is it different compared to the older model, right, where we had a hard top? I can say that this is worse. The hard top was still not a perfect car sound insulation, but it was still better than this one. The only other difference between the two roofs, now let's talk about the roofs, is that we complained to BMW quite a bit about the hard top giving some, you know, squeaks, those creaks on these joints, especially where it latches, where it connects to the rest of the car. Since it's a heavy also and metal, it's, you know, metal roof, it was doing a lot of squeaking and a little bit shaking. It was not something, you know, something we would complain about in terms of, you know, driving experience, but it did have those creaks, and then they try to lubricate them and it didn't really help. So I think over time the metal roof might have those creaks, which I don't know, might get even annoying. Maybe not. So if you guys have those cars for a long time, let me know. Well, we drove it for about 40,000 miles and we were kind of okay with it. It wasn't that bad. All right, so now let's talk about the sound insulation. And in this car, going to 65, it's about 67, 68, 70, 68. It's about 68. It's not bad overall. You know, you do hear when cars passing by, you do hear some tire noise because of the run flats. You do hear tires a little more, but it's not terrible. You can obviously listen to your music. You can talk to your, you know, passenger just fine. So now the next thing I want to talk about, is it easy to overtake cars? And obviously yes, this car has plenty of mid-range, upper range power, and this turbo is very torquey. This car feels very torquey, so yeah, that engine just very quickly revs up, and it's just easily can overtake cars, no problem. Yeah, absolutely. All right, and then the last thing I want to talk about, is this a good cruiser? Like, can you take this car for the long drives? And immediately the answer is yes. In fact, our previous car we did take to the Bay Area quite a bit, to like a Monterey, Carmel area, and we enjoyed driving with the open top, exploring the nature, and driving on the freeway wasn't that bad. And this car feels more refined, more mature, so this will be even more pleasant to drive. I kind of like these bucket seats in the back. Well, they're not bucket seats, but they look like you can put your like stuff in there, and they're very easy to reach, like your food, your clothes, whatever. So that overall, that space is a good space to be in, and for two people this is easy to travel with, and enjoyable, because you can take off your top and then enjoy the nature. All right, so now let me go ahead and drive it on the canyon roads. All right, and now driving BMW 430i Convertible on the canyon roads. I put it in sport mode, and let's go. We just kind of want to see, nothing crazy, but we kind of want to see how safe this car is. Put it a little bit to the stress, not too much. All right, the pickup is pretty good overall for the 4-cylinder. It's pretty torquey, like I said. Now we'll see the brakes. And then the first corner. Now I already drove this car on the canyon roads, and one thing wanted to say, what limits this car is the tires. This car has kind of slim tires, I would say, for this type of driving. I was hoping to see something like 245s, but seeing 225 on both front and rear kind of shows me that this car is not for faster canyon type of road driving, but it's definitely capable of taking on dangerous situation. If there's a car that brakes in front of you, this BMW will certainly have the confidence to overtake that car just fine. Overall, suspension is very well planted. There's slight body roll, but then it just keeps you engaged throughout. So there's no kind of falling to the side, or there's nothing that will not make you feel safe driving this car. All right, this biker is doing something. Might have to find another piece of road to drive it a little more. The brakes feel okay. I guess they all want to get a photo here. The brakes feel kind of okay, actually. I don't know about the longer driving, but overall they feel pretty strong. The car does not have any excessive leans forward, so it feels kind of normal when I brake. Yeah, it's pretty not bad, actually. I expected brakes to fade more on the canyon roads, but they are not. Maybe if you drive really for a long period of time, you'll feel them more, fading more. Suspension is really nice. I mean, this car just stays planted. I mean, you can see the BMW's DNA. The car stays really well planted, and there's a Model S in front of us. We're all having just a little bit of fun here. All right, let me find another piece of road where I can drive it a little more. All right, and we are back. A few more corners. We're going a little bit uphill now. And it holds. I mean, as much as it can, it'll hold you in place. Definitely thrilling. I also like how suspension kind of, dampens really well. These roads are not perfect, and it does a very good job kind of like smoothens them out. So one thing I can say about the suspension, it's buttery smooth. That's how comfortable it is in this normal, not M Sport version. Steering is responsive, very responsive, and I'm getting some good feedback, although it's, you know, not a real one, like it's electronically modulated, but still it's a very good feedback, and it's fun. Let me tell you this car is just fun. It holds in place really well. The tires are the limitations, not so much the brakes like I expected. The tires are the limitations, and we're not going fast, but I can see that, you know, if we had a better grip, we could probably go a little bit faster. All right, it's another corner. A lot of fun driving this 4 Series. So I can imagine the 440i with, you know, bigger brakes, you know, firmer suspension, bigger tires. That car will feel even flatter, more thrilling, more responsive. But even then, this car is plenty fun, and I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying its buttery smooth suspension that, you know, gives me a very comfortable ride, and at the same time it allowing me to have fun with this car. A lot of fun, actually. Yeah, brakes are good. Brakes pretty strong. The car stops really well. Very pleasant, very fun. Guys, bring your car to canyon roads if you can, if you don't live in Florida. Or basically twisty roads, and then you'll appreciate your car more, or maybe not. Depends what car it is. But that's where car opens up. I always say that, and very enjoyable to drive this BMW 4 Series convertible. And now let me go ahead and summarize. And I just finished driving BMW 430i Convertible on the city streets, highway, and canyon roads. And I must say I have a very pleasant experience after driving this car, spending a whole day with it, and I kind of liked it. And here's what I would like to say. If you're getting a new one, kind of decide whether you want a comfort, smooth, buttery drive, then this is the one to get. It has a plenty power. This 4-cylinder is adequate. It's plenty powerful. Don't really need more than that. But if you are an enthusiast, if you want more power, if you want to take more aggressive corners, then the 440i is the one to get. The only thing I always advise, and maybe if you guys want me to make a video on this, when I shop for especially BMW, I find those dealerships where I'm able to get, you know, 10, 12, 15% sometimes MSRP. Even in these hard times, you can still find a way to do that. And in that case, the 440i maybe is only going to be only like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 more than the regular one. And then in that case, it's very well worth it. But in my case, like, after already having a car like this, and we had an M Sport with, you know, just a firmer suspension, and honestly I would prefer this more. I would prefer a regular one with a regular suspension, not the M Sport, unless I'm getting a, you know, 440i model. Now, in terms of which one would I get, the used one, let's say with the low miles, the previous gen, or this one, I am literally 50-50 on this. I definitely like the looks of the older one better. I love the hard top roof. I think they did a great job. I love the whole construction, you know, how the trunk would open and the roof would, you know, the trunk would elevate, and then you can load your luggage there. Versus this hard top, I feel like they're kind of trying to save cost on this whole production, but they didn't really reduce the MSRP of the car. So, and plus the sound insulation is better in the hard top. In terms of driving experience, the newer one is more refined. It's more buttery. In terms of suspension, it feels a little quicker, not much, a little quicker. Steering is about the same. Brakes are about the same. So it does feel like a bit more refined car. So there you have it. And my final feel score for this car is 8. I was on, you know, verge of giving a 9, but if it had a better tires, wider tires, which I kind of expect from BMW, even on the regular one, I would give it 9. But 8 is still a high score, and like I said, I enjoyed this car. And, you know, if you're considering one, let me know what questions you might have about this car or the previous gen, I'll be happy to answer them. And till next time.